You guys are going to learn about goal setting. You guys are going to learn about maybe freestyling. I don't know. We'll see. Tapping into the true potential of the human spirit. This is Humanity Empowered. This is the Implicit Show. Hello, what is up? Welcome to the Implicit Show. My name is Brendan Dubé. I'm your host today. And you know what? It's Wednesday. Wednesday's always a beautiful day. Every Wednesday we interview somebody. We got a special guest. You guys might know him if you're active in the Motivation Mastermind community, which is where I met this guy. And I'm glad I did. You know, I like his energy, smiling. He's on a mission. And his name is Andrew Sayles. And I'll give him a chance to talk a little bit about himself, about his story, about his journey, and how, some of the experiences that led to creating who Andrew Sayles is today. So Andrew, take it away, man. How are you doing?
I'm great, Brent, man. It's nice to finally talk to you in person. I really appreciate being on the show, man. I really look up to what you do. You're doing big things. It's awesome to see.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. So tell us a little about your story, man. I'm super interested to hear kind of where you came from, your background, and some of the experiences that took you to where you are today.
Yeah, definitely, man. So you really got to go back to the beginning, I started out with my hustle. I was a drug dealer, I liked fast cash, and I always wanted nice things. And I don't want to paint the picture here that I was selling drugs or put the food on the table or anything like that. My family was poor. We didn't have money, but, I was always fed and taken care of. I was just selling drugs to fit my own needs because I had that hustle, and I never saw like the 9 to 5, just never worked for me. You know what I'm saying? So I honestly started selling drugs when I was around the age of 15. I sold a little bit of weed. I was in high school, not selling a lot, but as I progressed, I was really selling, a lot of drugs. I was selling probably about 10 to 12 pounds of weed a week and an ounce of coke a day, opium, mescaline, mushrooms, whatever I could get my hands on, and I could make some money off it. And I knew I could make some money off it. I was pushing it. I wasn't one of those kids that talks about, I sold a half to smoke for free. I sold drugs, and I built I call it my empire. I had for me. I was moving a lot of things to St. Louis, St. Louis, Missouri. That's where I'm from. And I was 20, about to be 21, and these cops came to my house. They beat my ass. They took my shit. They took my money, and they let me go. So I chalked it up to the game. I'm looking at it as I got robbed by some crooked cops. I'm about to be 21. I still have a little bit of money saved up. And, me and my friends in these days, we were all drug dealers, and, we're 19, 20. So all we did is sit around and play poker all day. So I chalked it up to that loss, and I was like, hey, I'm going to turn 21. I'll just be a professional poker player. I got the money for it. So I turned 21. I take a trip to Vegas with my stepdad, and I actually come home even for the trip, and I pointed as shit, which anybody should probably be happy to go to Vegas their first time and come home even. But I'm disappointed, but I just keep playing poker. I'm grinding. I'm making a little bit of money, paying my bills, doing whatever to do. And that goes on until I'm about to be 23. And one day I'm walking through a park about to go to my friend's house, and I get stopped by this cop, and he's like, whoa, buddy, you got a warrant with a $20,000 bond. And I'm like, oh shit, So I end up being able to bond out. I get a really good lawyer, and he's like, I can get you off for probation, but you're going to have a job by the time you go to, by the time we go to court, hands down. You have to do something. So there was a guy I knew from the poker tables that he was a regional sales manager in a door-to-door company. I knew he made good money, but I didn't know exactly what he did. But like I knew I wanted to do something like that. So I reached out to him, and his name was Chad. And I was like, Chad, can you hook me up with a job? I really need a job right now. And I found out later that he reached out to his manager in St. Louis and is like, I have this kid. His name's Andrew. He's kind of ghetto. He's probably not going to work out, but he's my friend, so we'll give him a shot. I ended up coming in and I busted ass. I didn't know anything about sales in those days except hustle. I was 100% hustle. I came in, and I saw people in this company that were making like $1,000 a week, and they weren't any sharper than I was. I thought I was smarter than these guys, to be 100% honest. While these guys would take cigarette breaks, I keep knocking doors, every day from like noon till 9. I'd get dropped off and get picked up. I didn't have a car at this time. I just got out of jail and stuff. So probably over my friends the whole time are telling me to quit too, like it took me a long time to get up to a $600 paycheck, and now I'm like, fuck you guys, we're 17, 18, or I'm sorry, we're like 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. None of these guys are making that kind of money. And then, about the 3 month mark, I started making $1,000 a week, and it felt really good because I had finally attained that goal that I had set for myself with it. So I'm on probation this entire time. I come up in this company. I have multiple markets. I'm traveling around, training salespeople all across the country, hiring people, all that good stuff. I had a good deal of success for a kid, that, probably just got out of jail a few years ago. So I, I'm not here to bullshit anybody. I smoke blunts, and I drink liquor, and I'm not saying I'm a perfect person. I'm just trying to be better on a daily basis. But this whole time I'm on probation, and I was smoking weed, and I was missing appointments because I was traveling around the country and everything. So at this point in time, I had a market in Columbia, Missouri, and I had about 3 or 4 markets I'm working with at this point in time. And I'm in Columbia, Missouri, or I'm on the way there. It's an hour and a half from St. Louis, and we get pulled over, and there's some weed in the car, and it's legitimately not my weed. And I have these 2 guys that work with me, and I'm like, all right, guys, look, one of you guys claim this weed. I'll pay the ticket. Nobody's going to jail. And they're both like, we don't smoke. What are you talking about? And I'm telling the cops, I was like, hey, I'm not going to lie. I smoke, but that is not my weed. Well, the law in Missouri, St. Louis, Missouri, the state I live in, is if you're on probation and you have a police encounter, they have to call your probation officer. Well, they call my probation officer, and she says, oh, well, he had some dirty drug test and he's been missing appointments. I'm just going to go ahead and violate him, go ahead and charge him with the weed. So I get taken to jail that day. I'm back in jail. And this is after being successful in sales for a little while. And I end up getting sentenced to where I had to do 3 months in a rehab program in St. Louis County. And they made me actually turn myself in 2 months early for it because for some crazy reason, I'm a threat to society. And I don't know where that came from, but so they made me turn myself in 2 months early. So I'm going through this rehab program with like for real drug addicts that do like heroin and meth and all kinds of crazy stuff, doing crazy stuff to get their drugs. And I'm like, yeah, I smoke a little bit of weed. I travel around the country for doing sales, but I could have let that just totally destroy me, but I use that I use that situation actually to meet other people and teach them what I had learned along the way, because a lot of these people had came from similar backgrounds amongst as myself. But I also immersed myself in books when I was in there. I didn't get involved in the dumb shit like everybody else was doing, on the jailhouse yard, or whatever they could do to get in trouble. Like I knew my time, what I was coming in for, when I was getting out, and I knew I had to hit the ground running. So I read a ton of books. I read Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. I brushed up on my Brian Tracy. Man, I had a ton of motivational and sales books sent into me that I spent my entire time in there reading them. So I got out and I really hit the ground running. I couldn't come back to this company that I had left at that point in time as a regional sales manager. This is the real world. It doesn't happen. So I came back and I was just a sales rep. Well, within a week I'm managing an office in Columbia, Missouri. Within 6 weeks, I'm working between 2 offices between Columbia, Missouri and La Crosse, Wisconsin. And I'm doing really well again, just because I had immersed myself and mentally prepared myself to come back out and just, destroy the game. And I was doing so well, probably about 3 months, 4 months after I had got out of jail, I got a phone call to where they offered me a position to go down to Florida and have, several markets under me. And in the door-to-door world, when you go down south, your income actually increases in the winter, because up north sometimes like it's a little bit harder to make sales and stuff, this and that. But it was the first chance I'd ever have, in my sales career, to be in a legitimate position where I can make $100,000. So I jumped at the opportunity. Well, I was dating a girl at the time, and she told me to pick the job between the job and her, and she, I guess, was offended that I had picked the job over her. I was in Florida, probably a year and a half later, still building. And this entire time, actually, when I got out of jail, I was on probation. So I was in another situation to where in the state of Missouri, it takes 3 months to transfer your probation to another state. So every other month, I was flying back to see my probation officer. Well, I meet a girl in Florida. Me and her have a baby. My ex-girlfriend sees on Facebook that I had a baby with another girl, gets jealous, and goes out of her way to call my probation officer and tell her I'm working out of state. So in 2015, I ended up getting extradited out of Missouri or out of Florida back to Missouri and doing about a total of 6 months in jail again. And but it was crazy, man. And like I'm a flat out hustler, and I'll admit I broke some rules because I saw a chance to better myself and put myself in a better position. But they were my probation officer this time wanted to give me 5 years in prison. And even the prosecutor and the judge were like, why would we do that to this guy? He hasn't been in trouble in like 10 years. So, I had to do 6 months in jail again. And this time I wasn't quite as sure what I was going to do when I got out. I still read a bunch of motivational stuff, and I mentally prepped myself that, I need to get out and get myself in a position to make 100K. But I didn't know what I was going to do. And I finally get out. And I took the first thing that came to me. I worked at Best Buy. I don't know. Do you guys have Best Buys in Canada?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. We got it all. Best Buy, The Source, Radio Shack.
I gotta come visit you, man. I don't know much about it other than I can snowboard there. But so I'm working at Best Buy, and I'm killing the game. At Best Buy mobile sales. I'm top 5 in the district. But I'm not really making any money. I'm not happy. I'm honestly like every day on the way to work, I'm hating life because that's just not me being stuck inside this little building all day long, and knowing I can only make like $800 every 2 weeks if I'm lucky. It's just like, to me, that's just a pathetic existence. I can't do that. So I was following a guy on Facebook named Ryan Stewman that had a company called Hardcore Closer, and he's a very successful sales trainer, has very great material. And so I was like, man, I want to work for that guy. It looks like a great place to work. So I told everybody at Best Buy that my goal was to work for Hardcore Closer, and they knew about Hardcore Closer, and they're like, yeah, okay, man, that'll never happen. Well, there was one day I just got mad. And I walked out and I said, I'm going to work for Hardcore Closer. And they're like, yeah, they laughed at me. They're like, okay, man, that's never going to happen. We told you, goodbye, good luck. Well, so I'm grinding. The only way to get a job for Ryan Stewman and Hardcore Closer is to buy his Show Up and Close program and make 5 sales by yourself with no help. So I'm grinding for a month in my network trying to, close some sales, probably longer for real. I haven't closed shit. But I didn't give up because I was like, man, I'm going to work for Hardcore Closer. I love what this guy is teaching. Well, one day he announces that he's going to hire, a savage to come work for him that's down to grind it out. That's a flat out hustler down to work 14 to 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's me. That's my style. I stay on my grind all day long. So I was like, I want to do that. So long story short, I get picked amongst 16 other people to do an online interview where he lets his group vote on who should come work for him. And I ended up winning the votes overall, but he ended up picking like 5 of us to come work for him. And, I loved the experience. I learned a ton there. I flat out hustle my ass off day in and day out, and I'll tell you hands down, nobody's going to out hustle me. If you think you can, step up to the plate. I'll start my day at 3:30 a.m. and work till midnight, 1 a.m. if I have to out hustle anybody that thinks they can do more than what I'm going to do in a 24-hour period. But the disconnect was I was kind of flung into things. I didn't get enough chance to really learn and hustle at the same time. So we had a time period where sales were down and Stewman let about half of the sales team go. And I was in part of that half, and a lot of my friends just thought I was going to be devastated and I was done. I had been knocked down again. They're like, oh, Sayles is out. He's not coming back from this one. He put his heart and soul into that. But I took it in stride, man. I kept going. So I had a guy who I was working for a program. Stewman has a group called The Tribe where they pay like $30,000 a year to be coached one-on-one by him. And I have a very good friend named Bill Rowland who I was working for that program. And I reached out to Bill And I was like, Bill, man, can you help me out? Because he always wanted me to come work for him. And Bill actually got me set up with Platinum Advertising, a very great company with a contract where I'm actually an independent business owner. I run all my own shit, and I run my own company. I call my LLC the Green Energy Movement, and we're in several areas, and there's several people that I'm able to help make money with this, and that's where I am now, and that's what took me to where I am right now, and just never giving up and just keep pushing forward because I don't know what comes after tomorrow. And I've recently been going with my new brand, Hustlers Anonymous, where we do some social media consulting, and I've been helping some other people with social media, and I have some programs coming out for that. But yeah, that's my story, man. It was kind of long, but
No, that's
it
really
got it
cool.
got us here, there, right?
Man, you know what I'm really hearing in your story is just like trials and tribulations, man, one after the other. And like just when you think you're ahead, something comes up and then you find a way to get through that obstacle to pass through it, right? And I mean, one of the I say this all the time, and I've even said this in my TEDx talk, like one of the things that fascinates me the most is how, there was a study done and it showed how like 75% of the most successful people you can think of, right? People who have changed the world, like changed the way people think, changed culture, changed society. A lot of these people grew up in poverty. They were probably either put in jail, maybe there was some sort of, unjust thing that's happened to them. There's so many just obstacles in their way of life. And I think through each and every one of those, we get stronger. And so, I mean, you see it all the time, right? A kid grows up poor, has absolutely nothing, and yet somehow they end up, climbing the ladder to success, whatever success is for them, whether it be success in sales, success in business, success in philanthropy, success in changing the world, whatever it is, right? And then on the other hand, you see somebody, oh yeah, they were born in a rich family. They were given every little piece of education. They were given everything they need. They were, nurtured and everything. And then they end up in and out of rehab for like, not just cannabis, but like heroin, like crazy
Yeah.
shit. And so it's crazy how, I mean, it blows my mind, when I see stories like this. And I love hearing stories like yours, Andrew, because it reminds me that, sure, I'm going through some shit right now, but it's that shit that is actually going to make me stronger. It's that shit that actually is going to take me through the next level. And if I could just push through the shit, if I could just keep going like you've kept going over and over and over again, whether you put in jail again or not, right? You keep on going. And that's when it happens, man. It's those kind of experiences that make you stronger. Love it, man. So before we got on call here, you were talking a little bit about goal setting and stuff like that. You said it was one of the things that really helped you along your journey, along your way. Let's talk a little bit about that, because like I'm a big fan of goal setting. I have my goals. I write them out every day. I look at them every day. I'm constantly focused on them, right? But
Yeah.
it's a unique concept for a lot of people, right? How do I set goals? What are goals, right?
Yeah. So I think when it comes to goal setting, the initial most important thing is to throw everything you know about life out the window when it comes to setting your goal. Like, I like to teach all the sales reps that work with me reverse engineering your goal to where we're looking at a long-term goal, like 20 to 30 years, and we're looking for the biggest possible thing that would make you happy, as you would view as success. And we're going to build back from there. And, that big thing, it should be so big and so huge. And you tell an average person that doesn't understand goal setting and, the successful lifestyle, that they're going to laugh at you, or, like maybe if it's somebody close to you, they might say, well, we still love you as you are, or this or that. And, trying to make you feel better and save you from hurting yourself. But you need to take all that shit and throw it out the window and make your goal so big that it's going to push you, and something that's going to drive you day in and day out, day after day after day after day, until you finally achieve that goal. So, we start with that huge goal and we work backwards from there. So maybe it's 30 years from now, 20 years from now. Well, where do we need to be at in 10 years from now to be in a position to make that happen? And we list all those things, and we list all the things that we need to be doing in 10 years from now. And then we go back from there and we're like, well, where do we need to be in 5 years from now? And we list all the things we need to be doing and the preparations we need to be making to be able to set us up in that 10-year position. And then we'll go back to 3 years from now. What do I need to be doing 3 years from now to make the 5-year goal happen? And what things should I be doing? What should be my timeline from everything? And then we'll go back to a year from now, 12 months from now. What type of things should I be doing? And we'll go backwards. So what do I need to do this next 30 days to make that 12-month goal happen? And we break it down day by day at that hour by hour. I need to be up at this hour, doing this from that hour to that hour, all day long. I'm going to go to sleep at this hour. I'm going to take my shower at this hour. I have phone calls scheduled at this time, training, coaching, self-education, all this scheduled at that time. And I know if I do these things every day for the next 30 days, my 12-month goal is going to happen. And if I do all those things, my 3-year goal, my 5-year goal, my 20-year goal, my 10-year goal, all those goals are going to lead to one thing and another. Because when you look at your goals like that and you believe in yourself 110%, what your goal is going to be, your big goal where everybody else is laughing at you, the little things you have to do on a daily basis to make that huge goal happen seem like they're so achievable. Because you already believe I'm going to have the huge goal happen, like I already believe I'm going to crack the 1% and, make $350,000 this year and $100 million before I retire and, just call it quits and help people at that point in time. And I believe those things so much that it's not a big deal for me to do the day-to-day grind, because I believe in that day-to-day grind and I know I'm going to make those day-to-day things happen to where I'm going to help my social media clients out today. I'm going to go out and I'm going to close these deals because I need X amount of income coming in. I'm going to teach X amount of people to be able to do this so I can help these people, because one of my goals is help, a certain amount of people. My goal, honestly, for the next 12 months is to find 12 street kids that are going down the wrong path and bring them into my business and teach them a better way to hustle and a better way to make money. So that's part of my day-to-day goal, to find somebody and bring them into a part of what I'm doing. And I think the way that I'm able to stay so excited and wake up, like 4 or 5 hours of sleep and hit my day going full force when people are telling me I'm going to get burned out. And I'm like, I'm not going to get burned out. You might get burned out being around me, but I am something beyond being able to be burned out, because I believe in my long-term goal so much. And I planned out where I need to be at each step along the way, that what I'm doing month by month, day by day, minute by minute, I know that those things are going to be achieved. They're so simple. And that's why I think goal setting and reverse engineering your goals is the only way to find the success. At least the success I'm trying to talk about and the success I'm trying to help others achieve.
Man, I'm telling you though, it's super counterintuitive for a lot of people, I'm sure. Because, you think about it, most people, the majority of people have the idea that setting a goal is like setting a New Year's resolution, right? Like, what do you want for this year? What do you want for this month, right? What you look at your life right now and which part of it do you want to change? Right? And then you start with that and just start there, right? And the thing about that is, like you said, it's such a small thing. Like, when you have that 30-year vision, like 30 years down the road, and it's like, holy shit, like, and it's huge, and it's so huge it scares you, but it excites you, and it like wakes something up within you, and it's like, oh man, it's like so scary. It's like you have to do something about it, right? But when you're working on like, oh, my goal is to lose 5 pounds. If I could just lose those 5 pounds. But it's like, so, and then what happens when you lose the 5 pounds? Okay, you got your goal, you achieved your life's purpose. Okay, now what? Now you're bored. And it's like, when you have that vision, that's the thing about it, is it's like, it reminds me of like Gary Vaynerchuk, for example. Like, when you were saying, you have that vision, and Gary Vaynerchuk, crazy guy, you guys probably know him, like crazy business marketing guy. And he always says he wants to buy the Jets. And you think about it, you're just like the football team, like, you want to buy the Jets? And he's like, yeah, I want to buy the freaking Jets. And he's serious about it. And it's been his vision since he was a child. And what's he like? He's like 40 something now, and he's still on the path. He's still working towards buying the Jets. And he recognizes, hey, it might not happen for another 20 years. It might not happen for another 30, 40 years, but I'm on track. And every single day I wake up and I know what I'm after. That's my North Star. And I find so many people, I hear people say this all the time. They say, man, I just go with the flow. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Don't do it. Do not do it. I'm telling you, please do not go with the flow. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It works to a certain extent, here and there, there's a time and a place. But if you just decide to live day by day, next thing you know, 20, 30 years will go by and be like, shit, I'm all out of days. Like, and now I'm too tired, or my body's too messed up and I can't even go after my goals anymore. It's just like crazy. So I love that idea of reverse engineering, rather than saying, okay, look, where am I at now? What do I change? Think, where do I want to be? And then work backwards, like 20 years, 10 years, 5 years. That's great, man. I love that. So tell me a little bit more. Like, what are some of the things? I remember you were saying that when you were in prison there, one of the trips to prison,
it was jail, not prison.
Jail. Sorry, no.
Thing here in the United States.
I don't know the difference. I'm Canadian and French, so like. Anyways, one of the times you were in jail, you were talking about how you were just diving into these books, right? These personal development books. Anthony Robbins, he's a huge mentor to me, so like I could relate to you there. Brian Tracy, just reading books, and I find that is a huge way to change the way you think and to change your mind and your conditioning and ultimately the direction you're going in. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about like how you kind of educate yourself and how you kind of helped reprogram your mind from, hey, I'm going to be this felon, I'm going to, sell drugs, I'm going to try to take the easy way out, to I'm going to work, I'm going to hustle every single day, and that's how I'm going to succeed.
Yeah, so I attribute a huge part of that to books for sure. Like my mentor, I'm throwing out there, I'm again Bill Rowland. I hope he's actually watching. He, is the beast in my industry. He made $50 million in the door-to-door industry, and that's tough. So one thing he always tells me is, Andrew, who you are 5 years from now is the people you surround yourself with and the books that you read. So I always try to have at least one book that I'm reading at a time. I'm usually reading 3 to 4 books at a time. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have time to read. That's bullshit. Everybody's got time to read. The people that are telling you they don't have time to read probably can tell you exactly what happened in The Walking Dead this week. They can tell you 3 or 4 other shows that I don't even know the name that are on TV,
Hey, did you hear what Donald Trump said on the news? Come on.
Yeah. So everybody has time to read. If you don't have time to read, get the fuck off Facebook and stop watching this podcast for a few minutes and crack open a book. Everybody has time to read. But no, don't get off the podcast. We got some good things going here too. But
yeah, come on.
No, but I'm being real though. Like if you're on Facebook watching this podcast right now, I guarantee this isn't the only time you're on Facebook today. And if you're gonna tell me you don't have time to read, what'd you do your first 15 minutes of the office today? What are you gonna do the last 20 minutes before you go home? So everybody has time to read. That's number one. The next part is what was really helped me was finding books that are really attain to what I'm doing at that point in time. So I was always a guy that's super motivated. I'm money motivated. I want to get rich. I want to be the best. I'm competitive as shit. So the motivational books were never a thing that I really felt like I needed to read coming in the sales industry. But I didn't know anything about sales. So I immersed myself in Brian Tracy books to start with. So, I read Brian Tracy. I think every salesperson should read Brian Tracy, Psychology of Selling, and Brian Tracy, The Art of Closing. I call that the Bible of sales, the Old Testament and the New Testament. I'm a Catholic boy, maybe that's why I do it. But everybody should read those. I read those once a year. The other, you should read your Zig Ziglar, your Grant Cardone. I'm huge on him too. But Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, those have to be read by everybody. And that's what I read to really learn in my sales career. Well, then as I advanced, I became, I was flung into a leadership role. I'm building sales teams and stuff. And from my days as being a drug dealer, I kind of did understand a leadership role. Like I gave people my product. They need to have it back by this day. I ran my shit for real like a business to where, there are deadlines. And, I expected you to move X amount of product. Price changed if you took too long to sell something. So I understood that aspect of leadership, but I didn't understand how to deal with the different personality types or, how to really build rapport as a leader, or the different things leaders need to do. So then I immersed myself into John Maxwell books. I read a ton of Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws, How to Win Friends and Influence People, tons of leadership books just to really learn that aspect of the game. So I was able to increase my leadership. But then I noticed another thing that I struggled with was able to instill the natural motivation that I have within myself upon another sales rep that has to go out and knock in the rain, the sleet, or snow, have doors slammed on them, be told no, walk around all day and not make any money till the very end of the night because they make that deal on the very last door. I had that naturally inside of me, but I had to figure out how to pass that on to somebody else. So then I started reading motivational books so I could understand how the average person thinks, so I could pass that on to them. And so the one thing I think you will notice with the books that you read is as your personality evolves and where you are in life, you need to change those books that you're reading because that's the person you became, I became the sales beast. I don't know. I barely scratched the surface of sales knowledge, but I can close some deals. I don't need to expend that much time on sales books anymore. Yeah, I definitely do spend some time on them. But when that happened, I moved on to leadership. When I felt like I had a good deal of leadership aspects on, I moved on to motivation. Then from there, I've gone through other books and I just keep going through the cycle and taking in as much as I can. And, the other big thing is you don't want to listen to just anybody. Make sure the person you're listening to is somebody you like to be like. Because if you're following the wrong person, you don't know where you're going. But those are my big things in books. I think everybody needs to take them in.
What I'm really hearing here is anytime you knew that you needed a certain skill or needed a certain talent or you needed certain knowledge to move forward in your business, in your career, in your life, you went and found it. Like that was the thing for me is when I was a kid going through school, I hated school. I didn't give a shit about anything the teachers had to say. I was just disrespectful. I had a chip on my shoulder. I was like, these get out of here. You guys have nothing to teach me. And so coming out of high school, I didn't really have a lot of skills. I just knew how to play music, right? Because that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to play music, video games. I wanted to get drunk. Right. And so that was it, right? And, I basically reached a point in my path where I was so upset, depressed, just not satisfied with my life. And so I was searching for knowledge that I didn't really know existed. And it was how to grow, how to be successful, how to be happy, how to be fulfilled, all these things, all these answers that I didn't know were out there until I asked the question, right? And as soon as I asked the question, there's a book out there. Oh, you mean there's a book on that? There's a book on sales? Oh, there's a book on leadership? Oh, you mean I could listen to an audiobook about how to get motivated? What? Oh, you mean if I want to build a better relationship with my family, with my friends, I could just go to a seminar? What? Oh, if I don't know what to do in my business, I could hire a coach? Holy, these are answers I didn't even know existed. And as soon as I asked the right question, I got the right answer. Anyways, man, I feel like we could just chat for days and days, but we'll have to hook up another time and chat some more. But we're coming up to the end of the show. Is there any kind of last words you like to say? Also, tell the people where they could find you, where they could hook up with you, Hustlers Anonymous, the things that you're doing, and get involved.
Yeah, man. So my brand is Hustlers Anonymous. We do a little bit of social media consulting. I'm pretty much full as far as clients go with that right now. Releasing a program for this average person to pick up and, maybe learn some things you're not doing on social media and Facebook advertising and Instagram and all that good stuff right now. But yeah, find me at Hustlers Anonymous. I have a group called Hustlers Anonymous as well, where there's a lot of content that I post there exclusively. Or my personal page is just Andrew Sayles. Look me up. Send me a friend request, man. If you like the stuff I talk about, I'm down to stay in contact with anybody. Last words I'd like to leave everybody on, man. Just push past tomorrow. Nobody knows what's going to come after tomorrow. We know what happened yesterday. We got a good idea of what's going to happen today. We probably know what could happen tomorrow. But, man, we don't know what could happen after tomorrow. And if you guys just keep pushing and just looking for past tomorrow, anything in the world is possible. So everybody have a great night.
Mm-hmm. Love that, guys. So make sure you go and get a hold of Andrew. If you guys liked what he said, if you guys can relate to his story, he's open. He's asking you guys to connect with him. So make sure you do that. If you guys want to support Implicit, what we're doing here, you could go to patreon.com/implicit. That's where you could get all our books. You could support us and get books and audios and coaching and masterminding and all that fancy stuff. It's all available on Patreon. And finally, if you like the show, go and leave a review on iTunes. If you hate it, leave a 1-star. If you like it, leave a 5-star. I don't know. Either way, I'd love to know an honest review because, there's areas where we can improve and we're open to learning what those areas are. So thanks again, Andrew. Andrew, let's see the peace sign, man.
Peace out, homie.
Peace out. See ya.